Now, since the first phase of this parent forum, a lot of people have approached me by words of mouth and by social media that should I be given a chance to feature here again, I should touch certain areas. Some of them prefer to be anonymous. Nevertheless, they raise issues. So to acknowledge their questions, my answer, we touch on those issues, although we can't go in depth here. Also, some parents have written in some questions. But surprisingly, they have gone what I would call over syllabus. This forum was to be a response from parents to their children. But surprisingly, their response is one partner asking us to address the second partner to show leadership in the house. I'm not mentioning any gender. To say that financial support is not enough, there should be spiritual leadership in the house. And they prefer to do it like Nicodemus. No mentioning of names, no going into details. So, my response will acknowledge receipt of those questions. Blessed be the name of the Lord. For as long as we are on this terrestrial plane, Psalm 24 verse 1 is true. That the whole earth is the Lord's and his fullness thereof, the world and all those that dwelleth in it. So, the creator of the whole universe had decided to guide the universe with certain rules and regulations. Certain rules and regulations. He is the chief shepherd. And Prophet David, King David acknowledged that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God the Creator is the chief shepherd, and he has appointed under shepherds to download instructions from him in prayers to be passed on to our flocks, who are our children. These under shepherds may not necessarily be our biological parents. They will be people in authority over us, who will shepherd us according to the will and purpose of God. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Now, parenting has to do with instructions, knowing instructions correctly downloaded from God and passing them to the flocks. And the flocks are human beings. Now, I will cite some examples and you can check yourself how well you are doing in downloading instructions and in following instructions. If you check what I will call toothpaste, whether it is Maclean or Colgate or Pepsodent, there is a small instruction written there. I don't know how many of you have ever read it before using your toothpaste. For the toothpaste that are for adults, the instruction is very, very clear and strong. That should you dispense it to any child under the age of 6, it must be under strict supervision. The quantity should be just pea size, like half of the tip of your smallest finger. And they should not be used more than twice a day. They should not be swallowed. And in case of abuse, you should report straight to dentists and doctors. I don't know how many of us ever read that instructions or supervise its effective usage on a daily basis. We do not need to understand why the instructions was written. If I want to, I have the privilege of Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Adebola Ademusan in the house, so go and ask them why that instruction is written. But the fact remains that whether I understand it or not, instruction is an instruction. An infringement of it carries consequences. Again, For those of us that drive vehicles, there are instructions concerning how your tire should be inflated, called PSI. How many of us actually know the recommended pressure of our cars? We just leave it to vulcanizers who can hardly spell vulcanizer. They pump to any pressure, and we put the whole of our family traveling from north to south, east to west. Just because the under shepherd has not bothered to read the owner's manual of the car from cover to cover to know the pressure to which the car should be pumped. What I'm saying is that the cavalier attitude we exhibit on toothpaste, on our cars, on our gadgets, we carry it on to spiritual matters when it comes to the Word of God. And yet, the Word of God guides parenting so that we will not err in this respect. Joshua 1:8 says, this book of the law, and I will say on parenting, should not depart out of our mouth, should not depart out of our hand, should not depart out of our heart. For those of you that have done master life, we should meditate on it day and night. We should be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then we shall make parenting prosperous and we shall make parenting successful. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But somehow, as we don't read the instruction on our toothpaste, as we don't read our owner's manual, as we don't follow instruction on prescription drugs, so we don't read the Bible generally and specifically on parenting. And there are consequences. And the consequences we are having now is translating to problems in homes. Problems in homes. And I have only 10 minutes. I can't go through all, but I'll just mention some key areas. The level of rebellion and disobedience in the family is on the increase. We cannot blame this only on 2 Timothy 3, that is, godlessness in the last days. It is simply because the under shepherd, under the chief shepherd, we parents do not even know the rules and regulations, talk less of applying them. And it's resulting in what I will call sibling rivalries in the home. Sibling rivalries. Whenever you attend ceremonies or families, it is then you will see what I will call the fault line, where eruptions can easily occur in families. The type of ashwebi, the type of sitting arrangement, the types of food they serve, and the band they hire, and the song the band sing to each other. You will know what is going on in that family. How parents are fared in bringing up their children. We should learn again from the Bible. God said, I trust Abraham. He will command his children to do the right thing. And in the family of Abraham, there were sibling rivalries, but they handled it very, very well. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Ishmael, the firstborn, and Isaac, the covenant child. They managed so well in Genesis chapter 26 that when their papa died, they still came together to give their papa a befitting burial. In the family of Isaac too, there was sibling rivalry between Esau and between Jacob. And one said, I will kill the other one. And yet they still managed their sibling rivalries. When their papa died, they still came together for joint burial. In the family of Jacob, that one is even too vivid not to remember. The other brother said they will kill Joseph. Later they committed his death sentence to life imprisonment in Egypt, a story which I believe you all know very well. But they managed their rivalry so well that when Jacob died, all of them left Egypt and gave their papa a befitting burial in Canaan. Blessed be the name of the Lord. The other areas of parenting that we are asked to touch about, we may not have time to go into it. It concerns advice of parents on who their children should marry. There may not be time to go into it today because I've only been given 10 minutes. The other one is the area of inheritance. When sibling rivalries and parenting is not well done, When the father dies or the mother dies, don't be surprised if the case end up in court. There are so many houses in Yaba that I know very well. As an architect, I've been asked, can we demolish building and put up a new structure? And because of old issues, I'm talking of rivalries between siblings who are in their 80s, 90s, they will walk with walking stick to go and write against the bungalow. Beware of 419. Some will say this house is not for sale. When you look back, the issue that caused the wahala has become obsolete. But yet they transfer the consequences to generations and generations. They will say our senior brother is the one sitting over the inheritance, and he claimed that all the proceeds are being used to clear stock away. Well, I will stop me so that my sister can talk. I started with a prayer, and I'm going to round up with a prayer again, that our children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be their peace. God is the chief shepherd. In Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 15 and 16, Jeremiah chapter 15 verse 15 and 16, God has appointed under shepherds to be in direct contact with the flock, with the children. We, the parents, are the under shepherd. May we not be failing in our calling in Jesus' name. Praise the Lord.
So, good morning, church. Good morning, and thank you for having me. I was asking Deacon Tinka that, can I please stand up? Because when it comes to this parenting talk, I honestly don't know how to keep calm. So it's something I need to stand up and talk. I do not take it for granted that I've been asked to come and speak. I've been told that I was given 20 minutes, and hopefully we'll touch on a couple of things that are pertinent. Let me say that I could stand here and I could decide to tell stories. There are numerous stories to tell. One of the things I do, I run a social enterprise called Rev Awoniyi. And what we do is we go around schools to talk to children, to talk to students from about age 8 up, to talk to them about various issues. We also conduct an anonymous survey called What We Wish Our Parents Knew. And there we encourage them to tell us a couple of things they wish they could talk to their parents about, and to tell us why they haven't done so. And there are numerous stories I could tell from the responses that we get. Is it the children who have their nude pictures floating around in cyberspace and they're confused because they're being blackmailed by their classmates and their schoolmates, and they're told, bring money or I show your picture on social media? We have them plenty. And the reason why we started that survey was because I was getting tired of parents saying, it doesn't happen in Nigeria, it's only over there. There are too many things that happen. Those that are on the brink of mental health issues because they are being cyberbullied. And you see, cyberbullying for a child or a teenager is totally different from what a parent will consider. Simply passing a comment and being ignored, or posting a picture and not getting a like, is enough to drive a child to the edge. I could sit down and I could stand here and tell you numerous stories. Numerous stories of those who are pursuing careers that want, or courses that their parents want them to pursue. They have absolutely no interest in it. But because their parents will skin them alive, they have decided to go to school. And then the parents are complaining. You sat down, 4 years I was paying school fees for you to be a lawyer. And then you said you want to be a DJ, which was what happened to my son. Thankfully, he has completed law. I mean, yes, we're still in the process. My husband is here, by the way. We've been partnering in this parenting journey for 24 years. We don't always agree. In fact, a number of times we disagree. But somehow we bring our collective wisdom to bear, and with the Holy Spirit we've been able to raise relatively balanced young adults. We thank God. My daughter is 24 and my son is 21. So there are many things that I could sit down. I could tell you numerous stories. But then it would just be another storytelling session that will end with, hey, now, wow. And even from the expressions that I can see on people's faces, I can already see people breathing heavily. We've heard all those stories. Enough of the storytelling. We've had too many reactions. Codine's story broke, everybody started running helter-skelter. People were telling their children, I hope you are not on drugs. Enough of reacting. We're too much of a reactionary society. When it comes to parenting in this age, we must be proactive, because the cost can be terrible if we do not act. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you stories. No, I think we've done enough. All I'm going to do is encourage us to be proactive, to be deliberate, and to be intentional as we parent our children in this age. Yes, I understand that there is a generational gap. And I was saying to my husband that there are so many generations sitting here that I'm honestly a bit confused as to who I should be talking to. But I'm sure that we will pick something at the end of the day. And the thing is, our children are so enlightened and they're so intelligent, and the kind of questions they come with, we're wondering. And then they've now used social media and internet to confuse us. And because we are immigrants migrating into the space of technology, we feel as if we don't know. Or they make us feel as if we don't know. Especially for those who have to go to their children every time and give them their phone. Please help me press something. And the child is looking at you and wondering, Dad, how can't you know what to do? But this in parenting is one instance where the immigrants have legitimate authority over the natives. No matter how exposed our children are, we must not forget that we are the ones in charge. And I believe that that's what our brother here was talking about. I have titled what I'm going to be talking about, I have 15 more minutes, Raising the New Tribe. And this was inspired by the speech that the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, gave on the 1st of October when he was opening there was this program called Anisa, I think, talking about unity and togetherness. And I will read a quote from his speech. It says, it is my respectful submission that to build the new Nigeria, we need a new tribe. A tribe of men and women of all faiths, tribes and ethnicities, committed to run on high values of integrity, hard work, justice, and love of country. A tribe of men and women who are prepared to make the sacrifices and exercise the self-constraint that are crucial to building a strong society. For some reason, that part of his speech has resonated with me since I read it, because it reminded me of the responsibility we have as parents. And there were a couple of words that jumped out at me. The Bible says in Proverbs 13:22 that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Too many times, our children think that that inheritance is money. So many children are waiting for their parents to die so that they can pass the inheritance. But it's time we wake up and realize that the inheritance we're talking about is not just money and wealth. Education is a critical legacy that we bequeath to our children. And we're not just talking about formal education, especially the informal. Many of us are guilty of not having taught our children how to do life successfully. Many of them cannot do life. We have taken over as if we're not going anywhere. And on a daily basis, we're reminded of the fact that we're human beings, because on a daily basis, people die. And we refuse to recognize that we're doing our children a great disservice. Yes, we are part of that new tribe that the Vice President was talking about. But beyond that, most of us have probably lived more of the life that we're going to live than what we have left. So we have that responsibility to raise this new tribe. And these new tribe are children. Now, when we talk about parenting, I'm not just talking about those who have biological children or those who have given birth or have children. I'm talking about parent figures. Who are those? Your uncles, aunties, big brothers, big sisters, educators. Educators have become default parents because your children spend the better part of their day in schools. So I'm talking to everybody that falls into that category. There are 3 words that stood out for me in that quote that I read. 1, high values. 2, sacrifice. And 3, self-constraint. I'll take the first one, high values. Values is something that I am particularly passionate about. Why? Because with the best will in the world, we cannot be with our children 24/7. A lot of us forget that. So we think we're the ones in control. Let me tell you, our children are a lot smarter, and they're listening to me, than we are. What they do not want you to know, you won't know. And it will be happening right under your nose. The only thing that will stop a child from doing what he or she knows he or she should not be doing are the values that you have instilled in them. The values act as a compass. I remember my son saying to us that when he was in uni, that a number of his flatmates were snorting cocaine. The only thing that stopped him was because of the values that he had imbibed. I mean, you are constantly micromanaging your child. I'm not saying we should throw caution to the wind and not monitor them. But as they get older, we need to make adjustments. Some of us do too much thinking for our children. We're not even letting them think. A doctor was telling me a story of a woman who brought her almost 30-year-old son to the hospital. I think he had some issues with drugs and all that. The doctor will ask the boy a question, the mother will answer. The doctor will ask the boy a question, the mother will answer. And we're thinking for them, thinking such that they cannot think. And then we're getting angry that they cannot think because we're confusing them. We have raised them to be confident, assertive people. And then we then say to them, I don't trust you to think, so just let me be thinking for you. We need to make adjustments. And the only way we can have confidence that they will make proper choices is because of the values we have instilled in them. So when you tell your child, remember whose child you are, what exactly are you saying to that child? Are you saying you better remember, if not, what I will do to you when you come back, Or are you saying, remember the values that I have instilled in you? Have you even instilled any values in your children? Deliberately. Because you see, none of us operate in a vacuum. If we do not instill the values in our children, society is going to instill those values in them. Because everything that is abnormal, which has become the norm, is what they will follow. Bribery, corruption, nepotism, telling lies. I had a program for children. I think they were ages 8 to 12. And I said, when you take something that doesn't belong to you, what is it? And they said, Auntie, technically it's not called stealing. It's called fapping. And that is how it starts. And I said, what is the difference between fapping and stealing? Anyway, they spent about 15 minutes trying to convince me that taking what belongs to another person without the person knowing is not stealing, but fapping. That's how corruption starts. And then we begin to wonder, so what values have we instilled in our children? If we leave the values education to chance, they will imbibe what reality TV shows are telling them. They will imbibe what popular culture is telling them is right, because you are not telling them what the right thing should be. Like I said, it's a full-time job to monitor our children, and there's no way we can do it. We need to start to teach our children to think critically. From age 3, 4, a child can begin to think. You see, gone are the days that you will tell a child, don't do this, and the child will answer you. You have to explain why. And you can't say, come on, go sit down, I'm telling you to keep quiet, and you're asking me why. The child wants to know why. And that is how you help the child develop the critical thinking skills. As our children go older, we need to begin to relinquish control, because we truly are not in control. And the earlier we realize that, the better. What are some of the values that I think we should instill? Humaneness. We have become so mean, especially with this device. You know, that screen you think gives you some anonymity, so you can insult anybody. You know, when there's a gist on social media, the gist that is posted is not the gist, it's the comments. That's where the real story is. And when you hear the kind of things people say, it is disheartening. People have lost their humaneness and humanity. A lot of us sitting here belong to the middle and upper class, and we have a different kettle of fish to deal with. Our children, we need to let them know that life is life. I remember the story I was told of some guy whose father was a washerman, I think in Igbobi College or so. And by virtue of the fact that his father was a washerman there, he got admission into the school. And, you know, of course, everybody, they would look down on him, I'm a washerman. Anyway, several years after, they were doing fundraising. The guy's donation was the largest. You never can tell where they're going. And even if his donation was not the largest, we should treat every human being with respect. And we should teach our children to do so. And you see, the way we do so is by what we do. You see, it's called monkey see, monkey do. It's not so much what we say to our children, but but what they see us do. So what are some of the values? Humaneness, hard work, empathy, integrity, and respect. The line is getting very thin. And we watch children being rude, and we're laughing. He's so cute. There's nothing cute about rudeness. When a child is rude, a child is rude. And you know when you are being disrespected, and that child should be called to order. And you see, children that are listening to me, you need to understand that in every relationship, whether it's with your parents or with your teachers or with whoever, there are boundaries. You should know when you're crossing the boundary. Do not keep pushing and pushing and pushing and talking to people anyhow. It is wrong, and there is absolutely no way you can attain what we call real success by doing that. The second word that jumped out at me was sacrifice. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I don't even have too much time. Because the life of a parent, anyway, is a life of sacrifice. We sacrifice our money, we sacrifice our time, we sacrifice our sleep, we sacrifice our food, we sacrifice our clothes, we sacrifice our bags, we're sacrificing, constantly sacrificing, such that we have gotten to the stage where some parents are totally resentful. They resent the fact that they have sacrificed so much for their children, because these children are not ready to sacrifice half an inch for you. They're not thinking about it. There are exceptions, though. There are exceptions. So if you happen to have the exception, I'm very happy for you. But I remember that even for me, there are times I've looked at my children and I've wondered, how can you be this selfish? When they want something, they're quick to tell you, Mom, please, can you? When you want something, they will tell you, I need to check whether I can do it. And I'm wondering, what are we talking about? I couldn't stand up and tell my mother that I want to think. There is a place where you draw the boundaries. And you see, we're watching these things happen, and we're not doing anything about it. I tell my children, you can't pick and choose when you're in control. You see, the Western world, their case is different. From age 18, you're on your own. You collect students' loan, you pay your school fees, you get a flat, you walk. We have confused our children. In one breath, they have attained the age of 18. We have told them that they're adults, but we're still paying their school fees. We're still doing every single thing for them. And then we're trying to expect that they would be responsible. It doesn't work that way. We should choose today which one we want to do. I agree that there is a place for balance. And I'm not saying we shouldn't imbibe it. But many of us are saddled with our children that we know who have no business living under our roofs. Still living under our roofs, and we're still paying them pocket money. There's something totally and absolutely wrong with that. They should get up and go and work. And that's why we need to begin to teach them about the dignity in labor. They should start wherever they are. There's so many fast food joints going up. If your child stands up and tells you, I cannot do that, then they should find out how they want to pay their bills. If not, they start from wherever they are and they grow. And why is that a sacrifice? Because, to be honest, it's difficult to do. It's very difficult to watch your child. You know, we've been used to hovering over them and doing everything for them. It's very difficult to just fold our hands and say, you know what, you are going to work and I'm going to close my eyes. But we have to sacrifice that pleasure and that comfort that we feel. So, in sacrificing, the only other thing I would say is that we need to be careful that we do not cross the line of sacrificing to overindulgence. You see, you're not in competition with anybody. And some people are sacrificing not because they feel that this is a needed sacrifice, but so that Lagbaja's daughter or son will not appear to be better, or so that my child will not have a complex. Let me do this. Let me do it. And you are running a race that nobody sent you. So be careful of crossing the line. The third word that jumped out at me is self-constraint. And you know, this is another interesting one. Because self-constraint is what will help us draw the line and stick with it when we're tempted to cross from sacrifice to overindulgence. Many times our children will try our patience, and you almost want to curse them. But you know, because we're Christians and we understand the power of our words, you restrain yourself, because sometimes you are looking and you're wondering, who gave birth to this? Let me leave it. So self-constraint means that you show tough love. A number of us are afraid of our children. I can't understand why. We're afraid that they will get depressed Like somebody, a friend of mine in this church said, she told her child, if you get depressed, I will take you for therapy and you'll be all right. We're too scared. We're walking on eggshells. Let's not talk now. And then, if now become, these children. If you talk now, they will say, if you talk now, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? We actually need to get up and realize that we have a major problem. Is this the country? Is this what we want to leave Nigeria for? They can't even fend for themselves. Talk less of fending for another person. Look, if we're parenting, we need to get up and realize that the world has changed. Parenting has only one goal, and that is to raise responsible people who are useful not just to themselves, but to any society that they find themselves in. The objective of parenting has not changed from when my mother was parenting us. It hasn't changed. And I'm sure when her parents were parenting her, it hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is the method. And the method changes because the world keeps evolving. You see, I'm not a prophet of doom. But the truth of the matter is that 2 Timothy 3:1 says things are going to get worse. It says, don't be naive. There are difficult times ahead. As the end approaches, people are going to be self-absorbed. Our children are self-absorbed, many of them. Money hungry, self-promoting, stock up. You're talking about, I don't do island, I don't do mainland. And I'm wondering, which one do you even own? I mean, it's such cockiness that should be, and they say it's just banter. Anytime they do anything and you call them, they'll just say, it's just banter now, we're just playing. That kind of play, we need to, because they don't know when to stop. And we need to let them know when to stop. So it says, they will become self-promoting, stock up, profane, contemptuous of parents, crude, coarse, dog-eat-dog, unbending, slanderous, impulsive, wild, savage, cynical, treacherous, ruthless, bloated windbags, addicted to lust, and allergic to God. They'll make a show of religion, but behind the scene, they're animals. This is 2 Timothy 3:1, the Message translation. And it's something that I think we need to go and read and study. The goal of parenting hasn't changed. The method must change because the arena of parenting has changed. For those of you who say, I'm not on social media, and you have young teens, you better get on social media. Because you see, before, if your child says, I'm going to Ade's house to go and play, you will ask, what is Ade's address? Even if you are not going there, at least you know where to find your child. Now your child says, I'm going to play with my friend on Snapchat. You don't even know what it is. You said this chatting snap. You don't even know what it is. I'm not saying you should be a guru in that space, but you need to understand where your children hang out. Because when you do that, then you begin to know that some of the stories they tell you are probably very alarming, but not true. And some of them are true. And that's the only way you can guide them. What I believe is that as we parent our children in this age, the only thing we can do is to keep reinforcing values. We need to remind ourselves, and I'm hoping that as we do that, we ourselves will remember the values that we're supposed to hold on to. I decree and declare that our children will not walk in the counsel of the ungodly. They will not stand in the way of sinners. They will not sit in the seat of the scornful. Their delight will be in the law of the Lord, and in his law will they meditate day and night. Our children will be like trees planted by the rivers of water. They will bring forth their fruit, good fruit in its season. Their leaves will not wither, and every single thing that they do will prosper. But it's up to you and me to do what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
We have the microphones going around. We want to take questions. And one thing that I always say to the teenagers is that civilization and westernization are not synonyms. They are not the same. So bringing a Western culture does not necessarily mean you are civilized. We want to raise civilized children, children with values, children that can survive anywhere in the world, and we can boast and beat our chest, that is my child. I had a part in raising up that child. So we're waiting for the questions.
I and my wife, we made it compulsory that my children, they will not have any access to phone until they are 10 years. And they have been bombarding us, they want to, because they are about 13 now. They said they want to go on social media. And we say you cannot go on social media until you're 16. Now, the issue is this. We train our own children. We talk to them. Because my wife is one of the persons that believe that charity must begin at home. But sometimes I also do tell her that you should make room for the broader world. Because while we are training our own children, we also know that some parents may abdicate their responsibilities. And our children will mix with them. So at that point, that is where God's intervention comes. But the question is, why do parents allow their children, age 10, less than 10, and then you give them phones and allow them to go on social media? Thank you.
What do app developers advise is the age that anybody should go on social media? For some apps, it's 13. For some, it's 16. However, that is only a guide. So for the children that are listening and are 13 and are saying, "Sure, you can hear mommy," they said at 13. That's not what I'm saying, no. What I'm saying is that if you get on social media below the age of 13 and anything happens to you, the law does not cover you. Now, every parent should know their child. When you know your child, even if unfortunately, there are some 30-year-olds who get on social media and misbehave. So it is really not a function of age. However, age 10, you really have no business being on social media. Age 13, you can allow them, if you know your child, if you're sure that the child will be responsible, and if you sit down and you set rules. There are rules and regulations. This is what you will do. You may even choose to monitor them. There are apps and other things that you can do to monitor where your child is going. Some of these phones allow you to set some provisions so that your children do not access certain sites. But for parents that are allowing their children at age 10, age 6 to get on social media, you are doing them a great disservice. And like I said, it reinforces what I was saying about values. It is only a child who has imbibed values that knows that even when I get to school and another child shows me pornography, I shouldn't look at it. Because if they're only not doing it because you are there, there's so many things that they're going to expose them to when you're not there. What is the recommended age? Recommended does not mean allowed. I'm repeating that again. It just means that then you can begin to have the conversation that from age 13, okay, there are certain apps. And it's because our children will inevitably stumble on those things. But parents, we need to be careful. I'll just tell this little story and we'll move on to the next question. There was a young girl who the hairdresser used to come and make her hair, age 6. And you know how it is. Every day the child will cry when they're plaiting her hair. Anyway, the mother realized that twice the hairdresser had come and the girl wasn't crying. Nothing happened because she was busy on the phone playing a game. Or so the mother thought. She said, "Let me see the phone." It was pornography. Full blown. Age 6. Now they're having to deal with therapy, take the girl for therapy. Because she had gotten so used to it. So we need to be careful. Do our children actually even need smartphones? If it is for communication, then buy a dumb phone and give them. Let them talk. I can call you, you can call me. It's okay. But we need to be careful and we need to be mindful. And let me also say on this social media, just in case, that our children can post also. You know, even for those that have older children, 16, you think you are following your child on Instagram. You don't know you are following a dummy. She has 2 accounts, or he has 2 accounts. One is Ngozi, the church girl, that wears church clothes, that her mother and her mother's friends and all aunties are following. Then the second one is Jimmy, the bad guy. That's the one that all the friends are following. You can never even decode it. So they will always be one step ahead of you, which is why I'm saying reinforce values. Reinforce values and have conversations. I must commend you though for the conversations that you have with your children, because it's very important and it's good that you started early.
Thank you very much. Okay, so what do you think about sleepovers? Because so many things that go wrong during sleepovers. People get raped. There are so many things that happen to our children when they go and sleep in other people's houses.
Okay, this sleepover business is tricky. It's very tricky because, unfortunately, I'm not sure how many of us would think twice about your child going to sleep over in their cousin's house, their first cousin. But unfortunately, we've heard stories of cousins raping cousins. So, yes. So, it is not so much the sleepover or no sleepover. One thing we have as parents is what I call a GPS. You will know when something is just not right. And you will know that it is a no-no. Whether it is your child who is not mature enough or who does not know how to say no, or who is easily susceptible to peer pressure, you would know. If it is a friend that they have that, you know, there's something about this friend. I'm not talking about parents that are paranoid, because some are very paranoid. Everybody that they see is a dangerous person except their child. Meanwhile, their child may be that dangerous person. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you are balanced, you know, and you are able to use that, your inner GPS, to guide. I cannot legislate and say no sleepovers. Neither can I say allow sleepovers. The only thing I can say is be very cautious, because your child probably might go to a boarding school. A boarding school where she's sleeping or he's sleeping with plenty people. Anything can happen. You know, I've honestly thought about this thing very deeply until we have conversations with our children. Real, honest conversations, and reinforce the values. How many issues do we want to deal with? Your child can even go for sleepover and she won't tell you that anything happened. And things are happening. So it is not the sleepover itself. But again, I'm saying be careful. Because beyond sex, your child may be sleeping over in another person's house where their value system is totally different. Every morning they wake up and spray one powder. You haven't even told your child about that. There are some families that is powder that they spray. And your child is wondering, mommy, I went to this person's house and they were spraying powder. And me too, I took. And you are wondering, how many conversations do you want to have? 2, you must be careful to make sure that the lines of communication are consistently open. If you keep, your child won't even say anything again because you are getting too dramatic. Your child comes to you, mommy, do you know what happened when I went to Mabel's house? And then you are shouting, I knew it. Calm down and even hear what happened. That's the only way you can guide her. So like I said, I can't legislate whether you should allow sleepovers or not. It's a personal thing. It's up to you. But what I can say is be very cautious of how you feel and your instincts. A parent's instincts, I believe, is one of the tools that God has given us to be able to parent our children.
Thank you so much. We have some questions that have been asked before because we got some feedback from parents, and we'd like the questions to be streamed. And maybe Reverend Awoniyi can answer the question.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. My son has taken to alcohol. I have tried to dissuade him to desist from taking it, but my efforts have been unsuccessful. What do I do? If we must go back to the root, a newborn baby does not just know how to take alcohol. I would have been an alcoholic today because somebody, a relation of ours, came from the village to spend holiday with us in Ikoyi. My late father then was a federal permanent secretary. Before his arrival, we were not touching alcohol at all. It was just for somebody, for service to elders. He was the first one to tell us that we can participate in it. He will take some of the alcohol and then some of the whiskey and then top it up with water. The day we reported him to our father was the day he sacked him from coming to our house. What I'm saying is that, how did the child come to alcohol in the first place? Because if the root is not uprooted, it will continue to mushroom. Did they learn from you as a parent? Did they learn from outside? They did just not become alcoholic in a day. They learned it from somewhere. And that root must be pegged and discouraged. Blessed be the name of the Lord. On the one that had been said before on social media and on the sleeping over, Jesus Christ was on social media and he slept over several times, or at least on one occasion. When they went to Jerusalem, everybody returned home. He was on social media with the scribe and the Pharisees and the letter and people who are well advanced in law in the temple for 3 days. He slept over. But doing what is godly, what will foster his ministry to preach the kingdom, the gospel of the kingdom. Praise the Lord. There are some people you do not allow them to reside in your homes. If they will teach your children bad values, help them at arm's length. Praise the Lord.
So if a child is going to a house for a sleepover and you don't have peace in your heart, don't say that person is your friend. Please be careful. Amen.
Okay, I have this question here. My 16-year-old son has blocked me on his social media. What should I do? He said I am stalking him. Please, are you stalking him? Many of us parents are stalkers. See, there's what they call the rules of engagement. You know, when you go, look, you must keep the lines of communication open. And what that means is that you are the one who knows what you are looking for now. There is a way you behave. Look, there was a friend of mine who said she wasn't on social media. Anyway, I convinced her to go there because she had, her daughter, I think, was about maybe 18 at the time. To tell you how much she didn't want to be on social media, her username was, "It can only be God." That's how badly she didn't. She went there and she followed her daughter. And one day, she's posted on a comment, "What are you wearing?" Of course, the daughter blocked her. Am I saying that the child should have gone semi-nude on social media? No. But what I'm saying is that one vital channel where you could have been seeing what she's wearing, you blocked it. For 2 weeks, she couldn't tell me that she was blocked. She now said, "Please, is it possible if somebody blocks you, you won't know?" I said, "Of course, your child has blocked you." What am I saying? Be on social media, but don't go there and be embarrassing your child. Or you are going there and you are constantly following. The child posts something, you are commenting. You see that self-constraint that I talked about? Constrain yourself. They are not talking to you. If you have an issue, get offline and talk to your child about it. I noticed that you posted a picture, it doesn't represent you well. You know, when people see it, and even your friends' parents see it, they will think that you are a bad person and they want their children. Not the one you go on social media. Your child says, Chelsea, Newcastle, and you two, you are commenting. What's your business? Respect yourself. Do you understand? There are conversations that should be had there. And there are some conversations that should be taken offline. Because you want to keep the lines of communication open. Whatever channel is it, you can go. If you find out that your child has posted something that is totally unacceptable, you can then offline decide that I don't want you on Snapchat anymore. And I want you, and the child should respect you for that rule and get off that platform. But it's not for 16,000 viewers. Because, anyway, respect yourself. If you are stalking your children, stop stalking them. When you get there and you find anything, talk to them offline about it. And if you need them to get off those platforms, please talk to them and let them get off.
Gloria just gained an admission into Presidency University. Of recently, I saw on her phone when I visited, and in her chat history, she was asking somebody what is sex. She hasn't been taught by either of her parents what sex is.
You remember when I talked about parents? It's not just those who have had children. In this church alone, I'm sure that you can find one woman that you can say, "This niece has been bothering me. What is sex?" Come and talk to her about it. Because we're all responsible for the community that we find. Even in the community where you live, there must be somebody that can have that conversation. Which, by the way, one of the responses we've gotten from young people is that parents are too embarrassed to talk to their children about sex. And that is a tragedy. And I think the problem is that parents believe that we will be putting thoughts in their mind. They already know. That 4-year-old already knows. They may not know in depth, but they already know. So you had better tell them the version that you want them to hear. You need to have those conversations. But sir, are there NGOs? There are. And if you check online, but I'm sure you don't even have to go that far. In your community, there must be one. And the reason why I said a woman is so that she doesn't get caught up with one man who says, "Let me show you." And then it becomes a problem. So get a woman that you know is walking the straight and narrow, because these days we have to be careful, and that can talk to her about it.
The challenge I see after working with children for over 10 years is that it's the parents that are actually the challenge. The parents are not available. We've talked so much about value systems. Now, we talk about values, but half of the time, our children spend all the time with house helps. Is that not a challenge in itself? How can those house helps give the right values to our children? How many parenting books do we have? How many parenting courses and seminars do we attend? We spend all the time, we're busy. How many times do we connect with our children? We don't have the time to even have those conversations. When they go to school, we're out. When they come back, they're out back to this house help. So how will those value systems ever be translated? I don't see the children as the problem, but the parents that are unavailable emotionally, mentally, even physically, they are the ones that I see that are the challenge.
Well, I think I agree with what you have said. We are the under shepherd, under the great shepherd. And the Bible says, know the condition of your flock. You must know the condition of your flock. You supervise them. You can't be an absentee shepherd. It will not work. The Lord is our shepherd. He's not an absentee shepherd. So that they will not be in want of understanding and of knowledge. Praise the Lord.
And just to add to that, I think one other thing we need to do is to reorder our priorities. Must you go for that party? And if you go for the party, must you spend 4 hours? If the only time you have to spend and connect with your children is that time that they've invited you for that party, why don't you shelve the party? There will be plenty of time to do those things. We need to reorder our priorities. And until we realize, which is why I said teachers have become default parents. They just assume after paying 1 million, the teachers should do everything. They're not going to do it for you. So you need to sit down and reorder your priorities and deliberately, intentionally reinforce those values in your children. But I agree with you 100%.
What happens when the man leaves the upbringing of the children to the woman alone?
Okay, 2 things crossed my mind. My mother became a widow at age 36. My father died at age 42, and I was 14 at the time. Single-handedly, she raised us. There was no man. So there are times that the man will not be present. 2, when they want to talk to a child, they won't say, who is your father? They will say, who is your mother? Even if the father is present, if you find yourself in that situation where you are responsible, do the best that you can do. Focus on instilling what you know is the right thing in those children. Yes, try if you can, to get the man to cooperate with you. But if he refuses to, please don't look at yourself as a victim. Just know that this is the cross that I have to carry. What is your objective? You want your children to grow up as responsible citizens. Do whatever it is that you can do. It's unfortunate. Does that mean the men should just sit down and not do anything? No. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of men feel that their responsibility ends at providing money. ATM. Just go there and collect money. And they're getting angry that all their children are saying to them is, Dad, I need money. Because you need to show up in more phases of parenting. But if you find yourself in a situation where the man totally and absolutely refuses to live up to his responsibility, honestly, when they're asking that whose child is this, that where is your, they won't ask who is your father, except if they're asking, if they see that the child has plenty money. Do you understand? Then they'll say, who is your father? But if it comes to upbringing issues, they'll say, who is your mother? So even those that are blessed to have the 2, mothers, your eyes have to be very open. Because at the end of the day, traditionally, you are even supposed, yes, I know there are feminist ideologies that are being propagated. But if we look at the scriptures, it is the woman who had the responsibility for raising the child. The challenge is that we need to find how to balance working and the realities of these days with raising our children. But please don't look at yourself as a victim. Accept your cross and continue raising your children.
On the last question, I just want to add this. Circumstances of life may force a child not to be brought up by the biological parents. The reasons are numerous, like the one you have given. For example, it was not Elkanah and Hannah that brought up Prophet Samuel, a story which I know you know very well. There could be arrangement where it is not the biological parent who will eventually bring up that child. And I will just give an example. When parents know that they are deficient in a particular area of upbringing, it only makes sense for them to seek help outside, even if they are alive, from families, from friends who are experts in that area. For example, when my father was alive, he deliberately made me an alternate chairman to one of his companies. He was still alive. He did not have to vacate responsibility. But because he wanted me to learn an area of expertise where he is deficient, he vacated his role as a chairman of a company and made me an alternate chairman. That was under Mr. Bode Emmanuel. Well, in law, I'm the chairman. And when we got abroad and they said, okay, you are the new chairman, come and chairman the meeting. I said, in our culture, it is the vice president who should be the chairman. No, I'm only here to understudy him and to learn. So what I'm saying is the circumstances of life may force us to farm out that type of upbringing, and there's nothing illegal in it. Expect only what you have inspected. You can farm it out and supervise how your child will be brought up in your lifetime. Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah. Is it appropriate for parents to be bathing with their children, i.e. exposing their nakedness to them? Okay. I'm wondering, why would you want to bath with your child? Is it appropriate? No. It is inappropriate. I don't know what lesson you want to teach the child by deciding. I can't even understand what the issue is. Is it that you don't have sufficient bathrooms? You don't have time? There's no reason. It is totally inappropriate. Please, if you are bathing naked with your child, stop. Whether it is mother, daughter, father, son, there's no need. If you want to teach the child about the body parts, have that conversation. You don't have to strip. It is not appropriate. That's my answer.
Thank you very much. There is this last one that I'm just quickly going to read out because I don't know if we'll be able to take any more questions because of time. Most of these, this is the question, most of this relates to children. What of when you can't go back to the past and there are signs of depression, sexual abuse, no relationship with parents, etc., specifically for children 20 and upwards? Please, what can be done to correct the past? That issues have happened. So now you can tell that the child is depressed, the child has been sexually abused, you don't have any relationship with this child anymore, and the child is above 20. Is there any remedy?
Okay, yes, there can be a remedy. What is the remedy? You see, Nigerians, we need to know that there's nothing wrong in going for therapy. There are a lot of qualified psychologists that you can go and talk to if your child is willing, because many of them will not take an unwilling participant. So if your child is willing, there are many psychologists, there are many psychiatrists that you can take your children to go and talk to, because at the end of the day, you want to raise a well-balanced child. Of course, the starting point will be to have the conversation. And I have said that severally. Talk to your child. What's going on? I see that it looks like, or if you're even aware of the issues, do you want to talk to somebody about it? Do you think we should seek help? Because if your child is over 20 and is totally unwilling, there's really nothing you can do. Of course, I'm assuming that we know that prayer is very important. We must pray. But you see, some of us have run away from going to seek professional help under the guise that we're praying. Pray and know when to seek help. The reason why those people are there is because God has empowered them and equipped them to help you. Therapy is very normal. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you can even go for checkup just to be sure, because the pressure of Nigeria can be a lot. Just to be sure that everything is okay. There are many qualified therapists in Nigeria that we can talk to. So I think that would be a good way to handle it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching today's sermon. Subscribe now to get an update on when the latest sermon arrives.